why should we focus on hybridization of energy projects in general, and how does this apply to the Mexican context? And I first wanted to ask David if you could give your comments on that.
No, I think the why is a pretty important question. I think it really comes down to the market we're operating in. If the market is committed to supporting renewable introduction into the market, especially the transmission system, I think we've seen around the world that the bias is to move towards large wholesale generation projects. When there's less capability on the transmission system or less commitment to the speed of introduction of renewables, I think it does start driving us towards solutions that are closer to the load points. And the closer we get to load, the more flexible those solutions have to be to meet the demands of individual customers. And I think that does drive us into flexible solutions. And those flexible solutions provide different types of generation to meet the demands of a customer, whether it's base load or peaking demand, the percentage of renewables that the client wants. So I think the closer we get to load, we do get a lot more reason to move towards hybrid solutions that can better fit a demand profile.
Agreed. And then also from the technologies perspective, Raul, what would you say to this question?
And well, a little bit about Wärtsilä in brief, for those who don't know us. Well, we are a company founded in 1834, so it's been over 166 years that we have been founded, and we are our headquarters is based in Finland. We have sales of roughly $5 billion US, and we have delivered about 5,000 power plants around the world. And well, in our product portfolio, we have a range of technologies, including, of course, fast starting engines, and also we have battery energy storage systems, and well, that together, of course, then fits very well with renewable power, and that's where we pretty much focus our efforts, our energies, and our projects. And well, what we have found out is really the competitiveness of our customers, especially in this area of hybrid assets, you know, power plants, well, where you can really take most of the advantage of the cost competitiveness of the renewable energy, for example, and then also together with firm power options that represent battery storage, and also power plants based on engine technology that can start from 0% load to 100% load in just a matter of 2 or 5 minutes. And that's really makes a lot of difference in terms of how you can make more money and get also your generating assets dispatched to the grid, or if it's an industrial operation, then of course providing the right reliability, the right costs. And of course, you know, I can mention a few examples of those, but I like to at least mention a couple of them where we have in RECO in Honduras. Basically, they have generation assets of wind power, they have solar power, and they have a power plant of us running on LPG, which is very interesting. That's in Roatan Island in Honduras. And then they have energy storage systems with batteries. And altogether, these 4 generation assets have made a very, very reliable grid for the whole island in Roatan, in Honduras. And then also a very cheaper, much cheaper power. And then another, of course, that I would like to mention is, for example, in the municipality of Denton in Texas, which is north of Dallas. They have also 240 megawatt power plant of us, and 80% of their energy comes from renewable power. And they firm the rest with our power plant based on engines. And they have the lowest costs possible. And it's really amazing the kind of business case that they have done of combining these different assets together. It's really a winning formula. Thank you very much, Miriam.
No, thank you, Raul. And to stay a bit with this topic of technology following this question, but also from the point of view of a developer such as Enel, how the hybridization of energy projects could address and overcome weak points in single technologies, and how would you apply that in your project?
When we speak about hybridization, we refer to wind and solar technology, of course. I think today these two technologies are enough mature to cover the technical and commercial needs, considering the other technology, like the storage, for example. Anyway, the renewable energy sector is in a constant process of innovation, of course, to increase its efficiency, competitiveness, of course, to preserve the Hello?
Yes, we can hear you again.
Okay. I think about the advantages about the hybrid power plant, we see four main points. The first is that from a technical point of view, of course, this power plant offer to increase the capacity factor to access point of this power plant thanks to complementarity of the load curves of both technology, of course. Another important point is the switching between source when one of these is inactive, reduce the variability inherent in renewable energy and improves the stability of the electricity supplied. Of course, there are another important point, the optimization of the use of the electrical infrastructure, for example, involving synergies about operation maintenance cost and the capex. Finally, the hybridization of the power plant speed up the connection times and the commissioning of new renewable generation plants if there is not need to apply for a new access point. Of course, as electricity generation from the hybridization of renewable is a recent development, I think it's important to put our attention about two important topics. The first is we need a clear regulatory framework, of course, to starting with a definition of different type of hybridization. Another important point is the standardization of requirements to the grid connection. Those are the main topics that we need to move to encourage the development of this technology. I think there are a big potential, but we need to work a lot to push forward this technology.
Definitely, there's still a lot of work to be done in that segment. Now, Raul, well, Brasilia is a front runner when it comes to flexible power. How would you say we could combine flexible and non-flexible technologies to maximize efficiency of hybrid projects?
Sure, Miriam. Thank you for such a great question. Definitively, if we look at the greatest value adds of each one of the technologies that you integrate in this hybrid concept, I think it's important to see how you can combine not only efficiently, but also in the most economical way. And today, the cheapest energy comes from renewable power, and 19% of the energies in the world come today from renewable sources. And then the question here, and something that we have been also part of this vision, is that this percentage will go up to 100% because of the economic reasons. Then what to do with all this intermittency in the grid, or intermittency and poor reliability, if you can call it that way? Well, you need, of course, a combination between cheap energy from renewables to the firming of flexible generation that comes from two sources: power plants based on natural gas, and then also future fuels. Let's also put that on the table, that in the future there will be also new fuels such as hydrogen and others that are basically generated via green sources in a primary way, and then also together with battery storage. So you basically store excess of energy that is generated with renewable power in the battery storage, or generate fuels in the future that could be simply generated out of air or water, and then you have fuels out of that. It's incredible what we can do in the future, and really put down emissions, and also have very reliable, economical, and efficient systems in the future with this kind of combination.
Definitely. And David, do you have any examples on this from your point of view as a developer?
Thanks, Miriam. Yeah, I think a few real-world examples will help put things in context. On the wholesale side, we hear a lot about the intermittency of renewables and the difficulty for managing that on a transmission grid, and different markets handle that differently. But we have seen a lot of development of combinations between, for instance, solar and battery. We have our own facility in Baja California South that combines 20 megawatts of battery storage with 32 megawatts of solar power, and that takes that solar generation from an intermittent resource and puts a shape to it that's much more predictable for supplying the grid, and much more predictable to maintain stability in the grid as well. So I think that's an example on the wholesale side, how we can shape generation with hybrid solutions to ease the impact on the transition system and the market itself. On the other extreme, we have the supply solutions that are directly for clients. Invenergy has a history of cogeneration projects. These, of course, use natural gas to provide steam and electricity primarily. But when you size those projects, those are best used for baseload generation for that client, and then you still need to handle the peaking requirement of that client. Plus, there's usually a desire to have the additional supply from green energy sources. So if you can combine that with solar generation, which is arguably the solar generation behind the meter is one of the cheapest generations, and maybe the cheapest generation that can be produced in Mexico and most markets today. But combining those will give a better load profile to the client, fit their needs better, and it provides that solution that has a better fit by combining the different technologies together.
Definitely. I think indeed moving a bit away from the utility scale projects, there's also a lot of industrial and commercial clients that are constantly reviewing how they can improve their energy supply. And thank you for your comments on how they could consider hybrid projects to reach those goals. How do you think behind the meter also storage solutions could be considered? David Fernandez already talked about this, of course, in his presentation, but how do you think this could be included for clients to review?
Well, I think the behind-the-meter storage provides a lot of flexibility. You can do a lot with the storage to shift the generation to your peak hours. You can use it for stability on the supply of electricity. So there's so many applications, and the real benefit here is now everything is so scalable. It used to be that we were always focused on the largest generation assets because they were the most efficient, and that really drove us to these large wholesale solutions. Now I'll throw a bone to Raul. The smaller generation options are now getting a lot closer to the efficiency of the large generation options. So these more hybrid solutions closer to the load are making a lot more sense today. And I think the one additional obstacle we have in the near term is the cost of the batteries. So as the battery cost comes down, I think we'll see a lot more hybrid solutions moving closer to the load. And I think those will be effective solutions for individual clients.
Absolutely. Thank you, David, for such a great comment. And I definitively agree. You know us from a great project that you have in El Salvador. It's fantastic. The construction is going very well, and we are advancing so that soon you will see natural gas also in El Salvador, for example, and running with the flexible power generation as a base load. And it's incredible project. And congratulations to Invenergy for that project and for everybody participating in there. And well, about the one very interesting comment that David mentioned, that we have currently, small power plants, for example, based on engines that, run up and down in terms of the load, and can run very, very efficiently, even considering all these variants of load and generation, that you can ramp up and down. You turn engines on and off as required, and vary also the load of these engines, and keep almost the same efficiency. So that's incredible. And then if you compare that, for example, to large combined cycles, today, we can even achieve better performance just with these kind of power plants in comparison to having these combined cycles go up and down, and then also switch them off and on and off. So it's because it takes a long time for inflexible power generation to be up and running to 100% load, where they are more efficient. So it's incredible what you can do today with low investment. And then if you combine it in smart ways, of course, with the renewable power, then of course you will achieve absolutely amazing results.
Definitely. I think right now we've established like the types of hybridization that are possible, but that there's also, as Bruno mentioned, still a long way to go for things to be correctly implemented. Taking that into account, Bruno, what forms of hybridization currently make most sense in the Mexican market, and which opportunities do you see in the medium future in a concrete sense?
Well, currently, the big discussion here in Mexico is the future of renewable in general. By the way, we consider that the ideal is to look for a balanced energy dispatch that allows greater participation of renewable, of course. A solution that combine wind and solar technology with storage should be the next step for the Mexican market, of course, which, as we know, still has a big potential of renewable resource. We are exploring in other countries as NL the possibility to building this type of power plant. As company, we are leader in hybrid renewable energy and storage project. We have today 5 plants under construction in Texas, which are part of a big business plan in this country. Of course, we are exploring new opportunity in other country like Chile. Currently, we are operating a new photovoltaic solar park with a wind farm, more or less 150 megawatt. This is the first industrial plant, and is the demonstration that this technology is mature to ingress in other country too. Repeat, from my point of view, it's important to define a clear regulatory framework because this type of power plant needs to, for the ensure the development, the construction, a framework clear and to ensure the operation of this power plant, of course.
Miriam, if I may, I think that's a good point that Bruno raises, that we not only have the responsibility to react to the desires of the market that we're operating in and find solutions that meet those needs. I think we also have a responsibility when it's companies the size of Invenergy or Wärtsilä or Enel to bring experiences from around the world and help provide examples of how we could move in a positive direction in markets like Mexico as well, especially when we're introducing technologies like batteries that in Mexico still aren't very well defined on how they'll even think about a battery connected to the energy system. So I still think, to Bruno's points, that we do have a responsibility to bring those examples into Mexico and help to show why moving in that direction makes sense.
Definitely. And I'm building on this a bit, since a question came in from the audience. I think there's still also a lot to improve regarding the regulatory framework for also these types of projects. Considering your international experience of all 3 companies, basically, what kind of hurdles do you think there could be for the implementation of these types of projects, or what type of steps should be taken to guarantee the right implementation of these projects? Who would like to comment on that?
I guess I'll step in. I think giving direction, longer term direction to the investment community is probably the most important right now. So, we don't react real well to changes in the market. We like transparency, we like long-term commitments. And so even if there are short to medium term obstacles that have to be overcome, improving the transmission system, improving the structure of the market, having a long-term commitment to a direction, especially the introduction of renewables and new technologies, I think that would go a long way for the commitment for investors in Mexico.
Definitely. And Raul, what would you say are the concrete opportunities that you could say, not considering as much the hurdles that there could be, but also really in concrete terms, what could be opportunities that you see in the medium future in Mexico?
Well, opportunities regarding hybrid power, for example, for those players already in the market who have renewable energy, for example, if they want to have a business model based on arbitration, like, for example, store power and then release it at the hour of the day or whenever then there are better prices for energy. Then that's one model, arbitration for those renewable players. Then there is, of course, the model of reliability, which I think is very important for those who have a power plant. They want to add reliability, like, for example, not have any blackout. Then you have, possibilities of having cheap power that is flexible, integrating some renewables, and integrating also some engines or batteries. Then you can have reliable, cheap power with industrial facilities, industrial parks, or so. And then here we have also the flexibility that the sizes can be like, can start from, I don't know, 10, 15 megawatt, 20 megawatt of power to hundreds of megawatts if required, in industrial parks. So that's also an interesting venue, inside of the fence systems for some industrial facilities that could be done also with some hybrid assets, also providing cheap energy, reliable energy. And I think that for industrials and some areas, that have isolated grids, we have, for example, the isolated grids in Baja California South and North, and they need reliability of power. Definitely, that's also something that well, of course, then the authority, but everybody would pretty much look for. And there has to be also important that there has to be a business rationale for that, So the government should expect also that the people doing this kind of hybrid power, applications, and there is a rationale for that, not there should be a business case, right? So that's important to consider.
Definitely. And considering, well, of course, there's a lot of opportunities for new hybrid projects, but there, as you mentioned, there are isolated elements already in the energy sector in Mexico. David, from a developer perspective, would you say that right now there are more opportunities in adding hybrid elements to existing projects or building new projects in themselves?
That's a good question. You have to start somewhere, and I think it comes down to whether you think you have the analysis of the way you consume electricity, talking about a client specifically. If they really understand the way they use electricity, then they can probably come up with a new hybrid solution right off the bat. And those are opportunities for a one-stop solution. And if you do bring in a hybrid solution that's combined technologies, it's most likely going to be more efficient than piecemealing different technologies together. But then on the flip side, if you aren't completely aware of the way you use electricity, then staging into a solution over time probably makes a lot of sense. So start with a baseload technology or a principal technology if you want to go renewables, and then stage into the expansion of that technology, bringing in other technologies to fit the way you consume electricity most appropriately. In the past, there was a propensity to oversize your solution, especially on the C&I side. And so you would have a solution that is not as efficient as possible as it could be for the consumer. And the expectation was that they would sell the excess into the market and, at the end of the day, subsidize their own consumption with market revenues. And, I think that in a lot of ways can be a dangerous approach. It exposes a client to the market, the electricity market, which can be somewhat volatile. And there are tools in the electricity market. We have many qualified suppliers, and for certain levels of consumption, using the market supply is a better economic outcome than trying to build a generation in situ for a load point. I think we're always trying to get to that balance between cost, reliability, and sustainability. Everybody I talk to, those are the three components that they're always trying to put into balance. And they always start with cost, of course. But I think now that we're seeing some of the secondary impacts of renewables in the market, et cetera, these hybrid solutions are starting to give us the tools to be able to balance between those three components and get solutions that really not only support the client's needs, but they also don't upset or even can support the overall transmission system and market structure.
Great. No, definitely. I think cost is something that people look at first. Then also related to this, Bruno, I know that Enel internationally is already advancing regarding hydrogen. And when we talk about adding hybrid elements to existing projects, we could also talk about how hydrogen could play a role in renewable energy projects, how we could produce green hydrogen in those plants. How do you see the possibilities there? Well, of course, taking into account your international experience, but also in the Mexican context.
We believe that electrification offers the cheapest, the simplest route to decarbonize large portion of total energy uses finally. It applies to road transportation, for example, building, heating, many industrial and manufacturing process. Then hydrogen is best used as a complement to electrification. It can support the decarbonization of hard-to-abate sector like the heavy industries. Then this is, from our point of view, the role of hydrogen. Finally, hydrogen needs to be renewable, of course, feed by 100% renewable power, of course. There is another commercial production method which holds parallel sustainability future finally. Hydrogen for us must be produced by the renewable energy because it's the only way to reduce, to eliminate the impact of carbon finally. Today, the big problem is the cost, of course, but we believe that the falling cost with the make green hydrogen competitive could be a big opportunity for Mexico because for the hydrogen production we need a lot of energy. Today the problem is the cost of electrolyzer, of course, but with the mix between this new technology and the renewable technology, we think can to achieve a competitive cost respect to fossil fuel if the only way to the development of technology, of course, and this is a new way to employ the renewable power plant finally. Of course, we need to make sure this investment long-term strategy, of course, because it's important for us to have a clear scenario finally for to put in place this proposal. By the way, this is the only way for us to combine the hydrogen with the renewable energy finally.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds very good to start of it in that way, of course. I have a question from the audience before we go to the closing statements. Which countries? You already all three mentioned some examples of projects internationally that already are very advanced when it comes to hybrid development. But which countries do you think could serve as a clear example for Mexico when it comes to developing hybrid projects, and why? I think, David, if you would want to comment on this first.
Well, I'll point at the obvious because it's the closest neighbor, and I think the United States is an obvious example for the introduction of well, renewable penetration. I think is going a lot stronger than really hybrid solutions in the United States, and I think this comes back to that. That point on what the market will support. If the market has a very mature transmission system and a bias towards renewables, supporting renewable introduction, I think the market's going to respond to that, and they'll build large wholesale renewable projects, and that introduction will be a lot faster in that way. When we have more challenging markets or infrastructure, I think the hybrid solutions make a lot more sense, and they will be applied closer to the load so that we can solve a lot of those problems and use them to solve those problems. I don't have any other examples. We're of course involved around the world, in Europe and in Asia and in South America. Our presence in Central America is focused on the hybrid solutions, but they're still at the first stages. So like the introduction of natural gas into El Salvador. El Salvador is a very interesting example because at the same time we're introducing natural gas to a market, the renewable penetration in El Salvador is increasing much faster than expected. So you're actually putting in competition the introduction of natural gas into a market with the renewable penetration. And I think this will get even greater when we start seeing countries embrace hydrogen production, and you'll start seeing hydrogen leapfrog natural gas and start being part of a hybrid solution with renewables. I don't think, Bruno may know better than I don't think in South or Central America, we've seen a country fully embrace hydrogen yet, but it seems like there's a competition, and I would expect in the very near future, we'll see countries actually embrace it as part of their policy.
Okay, do you have comments on that, Bruno? Do you think there's a clear example in the Latin America market?
In this moment, I think the first target to improve the renewable energy penetration, in my opinion, and after we could to speak about hydrogen and so on. But in this moment, it's important to improve the mix of energy that this region are using to cover the needs that Central America have finally.
Indeed, a step-by-step process, no? It's first making sure that the grid is reliable, more renewable energy in the mix, and then hydrogen, which is of course a very hot topic right now. We can start talking more about hydrogen as well. Thank you very much. Well, we're already starting, we're getting to the end. So just some closing statements about what your goals are in terms of developing hybrid projects in Mexico. And
Sure. Thank you, Miriam. Well, I think that hybrid, the main message is that hybrid systems are here to stay, is part of the future. And that's a combination between cheap energy from renewable sources with the firming power technologies, with flexible power generation with engines, and then also battery energy storage system. And I'd like to share, well, 3 examples, at least that I can think in Mexico. One is the one that you have an engine-based power plant for industrial power, for an industrial facility, a very large one, and then also has, together with engines, a battery storage system. That combination really provides a very firm and reliable power, and ensures that there is very, very high reliability of the system and high availability. That's really a good combination. Then also there is another project that we have in Baja Sur, similar example also as Invenergy, renewable source power, then together with battery storage. In this case, it's a wind farm, together with a battery storage system that we supply in Baja Sur. And then also another example of a small solar application for a power plant based on engines. And it's very interesting because it's small enough that it can cover the parasitic load. So all the radiators mainly that consume a lot of power during the hot times, then that combination also increases the efficiency of the power plant, and it's more dispatchable also.
Perfect. And David, what are your plans with Invenergy?
I think Invenergy, especially in Mexico, it's one of the more flexible developers in the market. You've heard just in this short conversation about bringing gas through LNG into El Salvador. There's strong commitment to clean energy and renewables. In Mexico, we've already have a large gas-fired peaking plant in operation. That's a wholesale asset. We have cogeneration projects that we're already moving forward. And we have wind, solar, and battery storage. And now it's just the process of bringing those together into hybrid solutions. We have started that, of course, in Baja California Sur with the solar battery storage solutions, which I think is a solution that will work very well for Mexico, especially on the C&I side, as long as there's sufficient property around the load point to accommodate the solar. But it's now an economic solution to bring those two technologies together. And we'll continue to look for opportunities where we can bring our experience and flexibility to build. We of course always have the preference for the large scale wholesale projects, but we will build small scale projects with hybrid solutions closer to load as well.
Great. And then lastly, Bruno, what are your plans in the market?
Well, I think Mexico today is a very interesting market because we have a big potential. Repeat, for us, it's very important to have a long-term strategy finally, because to put in place an investment, important investment, we need to have stability from point of view and back topic to think, to rethink, in my opinion, the future of renewable or the electrical sector in general. This it's very important to have this stability finally.
Perfect. Yes, I think we can all agree and conclude that the long-term potential of Mexico is very present, and that we will all stay to work on a clean energy transition. And I'm very excited to hear about all your plans for hybrid projects in the future in Mexico.